Dr. Emmanuel Manny Hostin, an orthopedic surgeon and husband of The View co-host Sonny Hostin, is accused in December lawsuit fraudulently billing and by the way, this is a Daily Caller story I'm reading. The lawsuit alleges Hostin knowingly provided fraudulent medical and other healthcare services in exchange for kickbacks and or compensation, and names him among nearly 200 defendants in one of New York's largest RICO cases.
For more, we go to our chief Sonny Hostin correspondent for a reaction.
Sonny thought she'd already hit rock bottom until Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus showed up, armed with flamethrowers made entirely of sarcasm. What started as chatter about her husband's fictional $450 million courtroom catastrophe morphed into a full-blown comedy ambush. Tyrus dropped punchlines with zero mercy, while Gutfeld unleashed rapid-fire jokes like a comedian on turbo mode. Sonny didn't flinch. She held her expression so steady it could have earned her an honorary Oscar. But the real circus came after. Their mock courtroom drama spiraled into something wilder than anyone expected. Mysterious accounts, explosive confrontations, and plot twists borrowed straight from a primetime soap. The meltdown was so theatrically over the top, it felt like the writer's room had gone rogue.
31% of Americans trust our healthcare system. We have a terrible healthcare system. And, you know, doctors suffer because of big corporations as well. Doctors that want to do good, like my husband, you know, operates on someone even though they don't have insurance and then has to sue health insurance companies to get paid for the work that he's been trained his whole life to do.
And it is funny. She is so wrapped up in identity and she had no idea.
Sonny Hostin has spent years on The View, presiding like the Supreme Court of daytime TV, gavel in one hand, moral certainty in the other. She doesn't offer opinions. She hands down rulings. One misguided take, and you're banished from brunch for life. But this week, the self-anointed queen of legal virtue found herself at the center of a fictional, soap-level scandal, complete with a $450 million courtroom catastrophe starring none other than her husband. Suddenly, the very courtroom she uses as a rhetorical weapon became the backdrop for her own dramatic plot twist. The irony was so thick it could have been carved with her signature gavel of judgment, shiny and always ready to strike.
That will go after white America and talk about them like dogs. That doesn't represent our ideals or values for anyone. And get rid of those people, and this will clear up real quick. So do you have to actually look in the mirror and clean up your own backyard and get the racist people out? Because that's who you allowed in. You allowed black racists on TV who could just go all day and say anything about white people. And I guess lo and behold, they forgot that there's a lot of people at home, white people at home during the day that are not watching your show anymore. So just clean it up.
Yeah, you know.
Cue the popcorn. Because Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus revved up their sarcasm engines like they were preparing to roast Mount Olympus. Sonny Hostin has spent years on The View, mastering the full spectrum of televised outrage, shocked, appalled, indignant, whatever it took to plant her flag on the moral high ground in that daily debate arena. But now, with her husband caught in what commentators are calling a financial fiasco, so inflated it makes FTX look like a middle school fundraiser, Sonny's suddenly preaching privacy and due process. How convenient. The self-anointed queen of courtroom commentary now finds herself playing defense. And her trademark sass, quieted, replaced by a silence so thick you'd need a shovel to get through it.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sonny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sonny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sonny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners.
When someone else is under fire, Sonny unleashes righteous fury with a side of smug disdain. But when her own husband lands squarely in the hot seat, the loudest legal voice on The View, suddenly discovers the ancient art of strategic silence. Bravo. Truly inspiring. Enter Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus, striding in with enough sarcasm to power a mid-sized country. They weren't about to let this golden moment slip by. They dove into Sonny's sudden about-face with the enthusiasm of wolves at an all-you-can-eat buffet of irony, inconsistency, and poetic downfall.
Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by the View's gravitational pull.
Sonny Hostin, the same commentator, who once dropped the now legendary climate change caused the solar eclipse. Head-scratcher, may have just secured the gold medal in questionable takes. Everyone knows the moon is behind an eclipse. And apparently behind the View's gravitational pull as well. Perfect timing for Greg Gutfeld, who pounced with sniper-level comedic precision, calling out her contradictions with the ease of a stand-up vet. Tyrus followed, bringing enough roasting energy to toast marshmallows over the smoldering rubble of Sonny's credibility. Meanwhile, commentary online is spinning a wild, soap opera storyline about her husband's $450 million courtroom catastrophe, complete with fictionalized whispers of mismanagement, chaos, and disaster, big enough to require its own miniseries, and Sonny, suddenly quieter than a malfunctioning Alexa. The irony writes itself. The resident legal critic choosing silence the moment the imaginary drama hits her own doorstep. Performance art at its finest.
Brains are small. But who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sonny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now, the View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't shatter.
If hypocrisy were an Olympic event, Sonny Hostin would be walking away with the gold medal and a new sponsorship deal. Greg Gutfeld dismantled her double standard with the enthusiasm of a kid ripping open Christmas presents, while Tyrus stood nearby sharpening his verbal machete. And when he finally swung, it landed cleanly slicing through the smugness, the self-righteous posturing, and the rapidly collapsing facade of credibility. When the reigning queen of televised condescension drops her crown over a scandal this oversized even in comment, where everything is exaggerated for fun, you can count on Tyrus to be right there with a velvet pillow. Not to protect it, but to present it like a trophy. Even the View's loudest voices, Joy Behar, typically audible from low Earth orbit, and Whoopi Goldberg, undisputed monarch of moral monologues, felt unusually muted by comparison. As if the irony itself had sucked all the oxygen out of the room.
All that, and the price of butter. Sonny gets the game ball. If it wasn't for her, asking that question, it might have been a closer election. Listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be. This should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last. They called him Hitler. They call these things. America rejected them, and instead of coming back and saying we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing, okay?
A $450 million scandal, swirling around one of their own. And suddenly, the View discovered the magical world of nuance and complication. How convenient. Meanwhile, social media exploded memes everywhere, timelines on fire, and Twitter roasting Sonny with zero signs of compassion. Greg Gutfeld dove straight into the chaos, using the moment to highlight media elitism and how public figures love demanding accountability, right up until the spotlight swivels back in their direction. The moral high ground, it turns out, feels rock solid till it starts to crack. Beneath your own feet, Gutfeld's deadpan wit sliced through the show's sudden quiet. while Tyrus gleefully mocked the irony of Sunny handing out legal commentary, even as she's busy delivering her own dramatic, exaggerated narratives about her husband's misunderstood finances. And
You're right. Anytime she says something stupid, I'm gonna go, slave owner! Kat, I just watched that. That's the second time I've watched that. She was tipped off beforehand, right? Because they had to tell her before, so she had time to regroup. They wouldn't just surprise. You think? No?
I don't know. I feel like she could have maybe done better. Okay, here's the thing. One thing, and I would have even actually not give her any, is she said, well, like, I guess that's just what, like, they did back then.
Yeah.
She should have followed that up with saying something along the lines of, and I understand that that's a departure from the way I've talked about this before.
and the cherry on top. The View behaved like the whole thing never existed. Not a whisper, not a syllable. They'll spend 20 minutes analyzing Taylor Swift's love life, wardrobe, and alleged vibes, but can't squeeze out 60 seconds to acknowledge a wildly exaggerated, headline-chasing $450 million scandal tied to one of their own. Maybe that's classy. Or maybe it's just convenient. You decide. Gutfeld wrapped his segment with pure poetic irony, wondering aloud if Sunny might like to stop by his show to talk about accountability, sarcasm, dripping so heavily it could be bottled and sold. Tyrus didn't even need words. One smirk said it all. Because this isn't just about Sunny. It's a mirror held up to media hypocrisy, a reminder that plenty of loud, self-appointed truth-tellers preach virtue right up until their own skeletons start rattling around like they're auditioning for a Halloween. Sunny's defenders argue she shouldn't be judged for her husband's situation and, in theory, that's perfectly reasonable. But this is the same woman who spent years analyzing her political rivals' families, like she was hosting CSI. Hypocrisy. Now that the spotlight has swung her way, she's suddenly calling for nuance, compassion, and the full story. That's not just a double standard, it's a three-layer combo of irony, denial, and selective memory, and the fallout. Just getting started. The commentary, the memes, the hot takes, more is bound to surface. Sunny might need more than a practiced pout to ride this one out. Statement, hiatus, or that signature smug stare, whatever she chooses next.
And The View, you don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sunny, and the, was it Bette Midler? What's her name? Broke-ass Bette Midler. Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain.